This is the Ssangyong Tivoli, and it's a small, reasonably priced crossover, and there's nothing particularly groundbreaking about that, but it is important. Now, before I go any further, make sure you like this video, make sure you comment, and make sure you subscribe, and make sure you visit newmotoring.com as well. You see, Ssangyong isn't a new company to the UK. They've been around for quite a few years actually, but their history is grounded in 4x4s. If you look at the 1950s, 1960s, they even built fire engines. Today, they still produce 4x4s. That's still a very important part of what they do. A few months ago, I had my first taste of a Ssangyong. It was a Ssangyong Rexton, and that's a 4x4, and a very capable 4x4 at that. In fact, I remember on the launch, there were 2 Rextons that had actually driven all the way from Korea to be at the launch. That's one heck of a journey. But Ssangyong is trying to broaden its appeal, and that's where the Tivoli comes in. The Tivoli is a crossover, and we all know that crossovers are particularly popular right now. It's not some giant 4x4, although you can get it with 4-wheel drive system, and it's definitely not a fire truck. I'll start off with the looks, and you know what? I actually quite like it. It's got some really crisp, bold lines on its bodywork, and with black wheels and a black roof, yeah, I think I'm actually a bit of a fan. You definitely wouldn't mistake this for anything else. It's very distinct. It's very Ssangyong. On the inside though, I like it a little less. It's got all the kind of crossover things that you would expect. It's got Bluetooth, it's got a USB port so you can connect your phone. This one's got heated seats. It's got a 7-inch touchscreen, it's got navigation, it's got climate control, etc, etc. But the quality isn't where I'd want it to be. It's not that things feel like they're gonna fall off or break apart, it's just they don't feel as nice as I would have hoped for. And also, to look at in here, yes, again, although it's got everything, it's nothing particularly special. It looks a little bit old-fashioned, I think. Then again, this is a crossover and it only costs £13,495. That's not a lot of money for this kind of car. Granted, this one is £18,000, but still, that's quite good value. So if things feel a little cheap in here, well, it's because it is cheap. The engine in this is a 1.6 litre turbo diesel, and it's got 115 brake horsepower and 222 pounds-feet of torque. 0 to 62 miles an hour takes a very leisurely 11.9 seconds, and the top speed is 109 miles an hour. It's not fast then. Above 3,000 RPM, this is quite a noisy engine. To be honest, it sounds quite like a van, but below that, it's a bit quieter, it's a bit better. What redeems this engine a little bit though, is the fact that the other engine in the Tivoli, which is a 1.6 litre petrol, that, although it has 13 more brake horsepower, it has nearly half the amount of torque that this has. So, given the choice between the two, the diesel actually looks like the better option because it has so much more torque. The gearbox in this is a 6-speed manual, and actually it's not too bad. The throw is quite long, but the feel of it, the weight of it, and actually the feel and weight of the pedals is pretty good. The suspension isn't massively sophisticated, and you can feel that a little bit. It's not that it takes big bumps poorly, but it's just over rough surfaces, it just struggles a little bit. It never really feels like it truly settles down. As for the steering, actually you can change the way it behaves. There's a little button up here that changes the steering weight, and there's comfort, there's normal, and then there's sport. Comfort, well, that's when the steering is at its lightest, and to be honest, it is too light. Normal, it's a perfectly acceptable middle ground, and sport is when it's at its heaviest. That's actually the mode that I prefer because I quite like having a nice, reassuring, heavy weight to the steering. There isn't a huge amount of feel or feedback coming through the wheel, but it does a decent job. You get a rough idea of what the tyres are doing. The only thing is, when you change direction quickly, there's quite a bit of roll, and that's to be expected. It's a crossover, but it's something to be aware of, and there isn't a huge amount of front grip either. All in all, I think it's a decent first effort. It's not perfect by any means, but it looks good, it drives better than I thought it would, it's reasonably priced, although granted for a reason, and remember, this is a company that was, until one point, making fire trucks. They've come quite a long way. As a first attempt at a crossover, Ssangyong could have built something quite a bit worse.